Hey everyone, welcome to another screencast. Today we're going to go over Unit 20, Estimating Concrete Block Masonry Materials. By the end of this chapter, you're going to be able to do a few things. So, you'll be able to estimate concrete blocks by using the rule of thumb method, estimate mortar and sand for jobs that require concrete block using the rule of thumb method, and estimate materials by using the total square footage of a concrete block wall or a project and divide by the surface area of a single unit specified for the project. What does that mean? Well, let's find out. So, to get started, a measuring system using modular concrete masonry units can simplify estimating. So what that means is if we're using a system where we can have one unit, then that ends up making it way easier for us. So let's say that we have this wall here, and we're using modular concrete units, which means that they're all the same size, right? So if we look at this overall length, let's say that, just for example, that this is 4 feet from here to here. This lets us know that we have 4 of these modular units. So if we do it and we go by the length that it has, which in this case is 4 feet. So if we go from here all the way over to here, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Make sense? So using this, it's the rule of thumb. Estimating is usually adequate for small or average size jobs. If you're going to get into a larger scale job, then we're going to go into that. When it's necessary to estimate large quantities of materials, tables should be consulted. So you can use tables, or because it's 2025, we also have calculators for it. So use what you think is appropriate. I would suggest using calculators instead of tables, because with the calculators you can punch in exactly what you need and then it'll give you a more accurate estimate. Slide rules can also speed the estimating process. So these are very old. I think they have them on the next slide. So right here is a slide ruler, and they actually move and slide inside of each other, and you line up what you need. So it'll let you know how many blocks for the length of the wall and the height of the wall, and then you just adjust it accordingly. So when you want to determine the number of units, make sure you're adding all the wall lengths around the perimeter or the outside of the building and figure out the total linear feet. So for example, if we have a wall, and let's say we're going to build a wall around this. And on this one, we have 10 feet. And on this one, we have, let's make this 2 feet. When we add up the perimeter, we're going to take 10, which is this side, plus 2, which is this side. That gives us 12. And we're also going to have 10 here, and then 2 here. So we just double this. So we're going to multiply this by 2. So we have 24 linear feet. Now we can divide by the number of units that we have to get a rough idea of how many blocks we're going to need. The number of blocks needed to build one course is multiplied by the number of courses in the height of the wall. So what's a course? So a course is like one section, right? So if we have one course, such an artist, this is crazy. So this would be course number 1, and if we come up here, this is course number 2, and then this one up here on this pyramid or birthday cake, whatever you want to call it, will be course number 3. So some way to estimate materials for a foundation by rule of thumb. So you can estimate the amount of block that you need. So again, we're going to go figure out what the perimeter of everything is. So what you're going to be doing in lab is actually going to be an 8 by 8. So we're going to have 8 foot by 8 foot. So you know that the perimeter of yours, we're going to take these two sides. So we have 8 plus 8, that gives us 16. And we have to account for these two sides as well, so we can double this. So our perimeter is 32 feet. Now, in there, we don't have any openings for doors or for windows because we're just doing a solid foundation and we don't need to worry about those things. Now, if you're doing a house or another type of building, those might be considerations and you'd be able to get those from the prints that you have. Now, we're also going to have to estimate the amount of masonry, cement, and sand. And on these, don't worry too much about it because we end up getting a spec mix. So it's already mixed. You don't need to worry about the sand and the cement. It's not necessary. And realistically, on commercial jobs, you won't see these. Everything needs to be spec'd out. To estimate labor costs, so you have to know the average production rate for masons laying concrete block. So how much can you lay an hour? Can you lay 60 block in an hour? Can you lay 6 block in an hour? So here we have the International Union of Bricklayers and Allied Craftsmen. So they let you know what that looks like. So how many block can a journeyman mason lay in an 8-hour day? If you come up to me and you give me this answer, you will get BTM bucks. And that way I know that you watch this too. So here we have, because of the size block that we're using, the block that we typically use are 16 inches. I know in the example that I gave it's 1 foot, but to figure out how many block you need, you can multiply by 0.75 to determine the concrete blocks for one course. So in our example where we had our 8x8 wall, so we know if we take the perimeter of that, we end up having 32 feet. And if we multiply 32 by 0.75, that's 24. So for each course, you're going to need 24 block, and we're going to go up 3 courses, and because we're going up 3 courses, each one of your groups is going to need 72 block. So to figure out how many you need for the height, you can divide the height of the wall expressed in inches by 8 to determine the number of courses and the height of the wall. So we're only going up 3 courses. Is it going to be about 2 foot? Already determined that, so you don't need to figure that out. And on here we have 1 bag of masonry cement is the recommended amount for 30 concrete blocks, and 1 ton of sand is needed for every 8 bags of masonry cement. So if we follow that, and you can see that we have 1 for every 30 blocks, so we'd need about 2.5 times that, right? Just for what we're doing on here. So that means we need about 2.5 bags. So you can see we're not going to need all that much sand either, because for every 8 bags is 1 ton of sand. So if we have 2.5 bags, and we can round that too and say that's a quarter, so you need about 1/4 ton. Water does not require estimating as a material. When you're out working, you need water, so there's no way around it. You can't lay block or do masonry work without water. And that's it. Thanks for watching.